And so the rabbit hole seems to be never ending on this one so far. I'm back with more numbers and more stuff on this 818 date. I know the day's nearly over today. It doesn't appear like anything's happened yet, and I don't think anything will, although there could be something, I would say, in the news to do with it would almost be like a reference. It'd be something in the news to do with a reference to the mother dying, I suppose. So maybe, I don't know, or the mother falling. So maybe like the Queen falling over and hurting herself, or Madonna croaking it, or something like that. Something along those lines is kind of what the kind of clue you'd expect to see. But then again, nothing might happen. Usually when I say so, when I start looking at dates, nothing ever happens anyway. So, but anyway, so I did that video on 818, and I wanted to expand on the Vanilla Ice theme, because this song is super loaded. The music video is super loaded, I think. And it's referenced back to Queen and Under Pressure, and that's super loaded as well. And there's a bunch more Queen stuff that's super loaded, like I've Got to Break Free, that music video where they're dressed up as women, and old Freddie's doing the vacuuming with a Hoover, that video I have to go through, and I mean, that's all about awakening as well, coming out of the system, I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to focus back on Vanilla Ice, the Ice Ice Baby, and this particular scene, right? And because this has the 818 in it, right? And we'll get to that in just 1 second. But if we go to the lyrics, this is the start of the lyrics here in this scene. I'm on a roll, it's time to go solo, yeah? This bit about exiting the system, going solo, becoming independent, rolling the rock out from the tomb and being rebirthed, yeah? Reborn or resurrected, so going solo. Rolling in my 5.0, so at the start of that scene, they catch the side of the car, and you can see the 5.0, which is the size of the engine, written on the side of the car, right? Of course, it's a white car, representing the moon, the fiction. If it was white, blue, silver, grey, anything like that, we're referencing the metaphysical side of reality, the spiritual side of reality, or the fictional side of reality, yeah? So we've got that reference there, and also 5 is that number in the chart. Here in the double cross of Lorraine chart, the 5 is the metaphysical, yeah, it's half of 10, and that would be like the metric system. And then we have the imperial system, which is based off of like physical measurements in the world, that we can tangibly see. So it's based off the physical side of nature, and that's sort of based off the 6 system. So we've got the 5 for the metaphysical and 6 for the physical. So we've got that reference again back to the metaphysical, right? To the spirit side of things. So, and I wanted to pay attention to this rag top down. The rag top being down, the rag top obviously is referring to the soft top hood of the car, which we would call the hood in England. And I'll get into that in just a second. But the rag top could also be his hair on Vanilla Ice's head. And if we click back to here, let me just talk through it. So his rag top could be this, right? And that would be facing down, ready to do the Superman, yeah? Because the baby comes out head first normally. That's a normal birth. So the rag top down, right? So his hair can blow. That's what's going to come out first. His hair's going to come out first. That's what's going to blow first. The rag top, or the hood, opening here, yeah, this is the dam opening up, right? This is the matrix opening up, the bow, you know, whatever you want to call it, the womb opening up, yeah. The hood, you know, that could be looked as the hood of the clitoral hood, you know, at the end of the blooming birthing canal. That thing's opening up, and out's popping Vanilla Ice in the baby pink, yeah. Super interesting. So this is like the rebirth, you know. Across here we've got wake up screaming, yeah. That's what the baby does. That's how we know the baby's actually alive, is it's screaming, right? So we've got the metaphysical colors here again, the blue and the white. We've got the car, you know. The car, of course, is the carriage, the thing that takes care of you, the thing that ferries you about, the thing that protects you, you know, I don't know, you know, the box car, you know, the thing that carries the goods. Okay, so what we want to look at up here is in the red, we've got this thing, right? And you know, I'd note, well, you know, let's just go through what it is, right? We don't need to explain when I saw it and when I didn't see it, and you know, whatever. This 8 right here, this is an 8, right? This is a 1, and this is another 8, okay? And this is going to get even more interesting in a minute. But see how this part of the thing, this part here, the 1, is kind of attached to this 8 here. We got an 18 here. We got an 818, yeah, the A1A Beachfront Avenue, right, or 81A. So that would be 818 right there. So that's your 818 reference, and that date, like I was saying in that other video, it is super loaded. I mean, when I looked at all the numbers, I mean, there were a lot of numbers in that chart that re-reference back to other numbers. So it, you know, I mean, a spider web is an understatement. But the next number I'm going to go on to is not as deeply, I haven't ran as many numbers yet on it, but it's not as deeply connected. But it's still significantly connected. The same way as like 9/11. I think, well, it's hard to say, but I think 9/11 and 7/11 and that 7/11 thing is a definite reference back to 6/11 in the chart. And I don't know, you know, what comes first, the chicken or the egg. You know, which way around, which one's more important, who knows. But those 3 numbers there are super important, as is what I'm going to get to now, and I think you'll be able to follow along with some of the other stuff that I've talked about in the past as well, is that this not only looks like an 8, in fact, you know, it's not, I mean, it's not a terrible reach to get to an 8 from this, but it also looks like a 0, yeah. It's kind of an egg shape, but it also looks like a 0, and there's a couple of other numbers in here which maybe a 9 and maybe is 9s or 6s, right? So you know where I'm going to be going with this in a minute. But the idea of these 8s also being 0s puts us in an interesting position, because if you remember back to some of my earlier videos, I was going on about October a lot, because October is constantly referenced in Back to the Future. And so with the 9/11 thing and the 7/11 in the table, we had that sort of transference of the name of the month and the number of the month interchanging. So 7/11 was September as the 7th name for the 7th month, and so we had that transference between 7 and 9. And interestingly, 97 is one of those numbers in the table, yeah. So what I'm saying here, though, is that we've got this transference maybe between the 8 here and October being named for the 8th month, but being the 10th month. So we need the 0, and we need the 0 and the 1 to get back to the 10th month as well, or that reference to the 10th month, yeah? I hope you're following. So what we've got is we've got another date here, which would be, if we convert this 8 into a 10, yeah, if we just call it October the 10th now, I'm sorry, October the 18th, we've got something interesting happening, and this is where it's going to get even more interesting, right? So what I want to do is I want to go from I don't know which is the best way to do this. I think before I get off of this Vanilla Ice thing, I think I've about covered everything I wanted to do about this. You know, this is the rebirth, right, out of the dam. So I don't think we need to come back to this. And if you can imagine this in your head and remember it's 66, we probably will come back to it. But so what I want you to remember is this does look like a 6, a 1, a 9, and a 1. Super interesting this, right? So keep that in mind. And I'm going to go to the chart real quick, because I just want to point out this is the 818 here, but we've also got another set of numbers that I'd been heavily looking at before, which was 1118, and also numbers that contained 118, because 118 would be this set of numbers kind of combined, if you like, sharing the 1. Okay, so it kind of sat nicely in terms of balance, as does the 29 sits quite nicely in terms of balance, because it's a sum of both of these and a sum of each individual part of these two numbers as well. So 2 and 9 as a sum, and 29 is obviously 11 plus 18. So with that being said, I'm getting sidetracked real quick. Yeah, I'm starting to get sidetracked. What I also wanted to point out is that either side of this 18, you know, if we're gonna use this 818, we probably want to balance it with the 23. And I've been talking about the 523 date as a balance date, and a lot of these dates were coming off of that date. 818 was coming off of it. The 29th of June was coming off of it. You know, I say coming off of that date, but they're all, you know, they're all coming off of each other basically. And obviously the 11th of June, and of course the 18th of June, etc., etc. And this 37 plays into this quite a lot here. Okay, and also just keep in the back of your mind, Independence Day 47, 47. Okay, or 74. So with that being said, let us move to I want to show you so I was like, you know what we need to do first is we need to look between those two dates and just see how many days there are between those two dates. So this 61 pops out, right? Man, the 61 days, and I'm like, well, you know, obviously 61 is heavily referenced in terms of phi, because phi is 16, so it's just backwards, right? And that golden ratio number of phi is super important, and 16, it's 1.618, etc., etc. So we've got the 18 and the 16, so it's an important number, 61. It's the year Diana was born. I think I want to say Michael Jackson was born the same year as well. I can't remember now. So many numbers in my head, but you know, it's an important year, right? And it's also connected to the Space Needle. I think that was the year it was finished being built. I don't know if it was opened by then, but anyway, needless to say, we got 61 days, and I'm like, well, you know, if we just flip that over, that's a 19, right? If we just flip that over, that's a 19. So I'm like, what happens if you just flip over, you know, 19, COVID-19. You know, nobody will say it, but you know, the thing that shall not be mentioned anymore. You know, Harry Potter coming true, sort of thing. Nobody can mention it without fear of being taken down or whatever. But if we just flip it over, we got the 19, right? And so I'm like, let's look at it, right? So we got COVID-19. Let's flip it over. We've got 61 Divock or Divock, right? And of course, people have already done this, you know, because everybody's looking for the hidden meaning in this word. And this word, if it could have any more meanings, you know, like Ovid, and I've put down here, you know, what I see in the word, which is if you just flip the big C around, you've got Dovid, yeah? You know, we can just put a line in here, and now you've got Dovid, right? As in David, or the dove from above coming back to man, a man returning, as in David is the dove. I just thought that was interesting as well. But so we've got this 61 Divock, right? Or Divock, or I don't know how you even want to pronounce that. But I was like, well, I'm sure people have looked at this, so I'll have a look what it means, right? And of course, a load of people were looking at the Hebrew, something to do with demons and whatnot. And I'm like, no, that's not really what I'm looking at. Anyway, of course, the Latin pops out at me, because the Latin is, you know, it's somebody had mentioned something similar to divorce, yeah? The Latin being like div being like to divide, or die being to divide, okay? And I thought, well, I'll put it in the Latin translator, and I'll also have a quick look. So let's just look at two things. Let's look at this definition thing here. Right, we've got Devo in here. So it'd be like Devo, the C, right? So the C would be, because the C is capitalized, the C would be, so we'd be talking like, anyway, let's look what Devo sort of translates to here. It says break up, disrupt, sunder, divide, tear away, open, apart, tear to pieces, into, yeah, to divide basically. And somebody else had said something about I can't remember what it was now. Divide, or Vok was voice. So you can pick out quite a few different meanings from this. But anyway, here we've got Devo, and if you were to put the C on the end, it would be break up, disrupt, blah, 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 blah. The C, the shape of the dam, yeah? The C is the dam, yeah? The bow, all right? That's the thing that would be getting destroyed, the thing that we're stuck inside, the matrix, okay? So that was one little translation. Now I'll put it in the bloody Latin translator over here. So I put D in, right? So D-I, and that just comes out as gods. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And then I was like, well, I'll put in Vok as well and see what that is. See if it was really voice. And it probably does mean voice. I mean, unless you really know what you're doing with these sort of translations, you know, I'm doing like, I'm like a 5-year-old here messing around with these translations. This is probably not right, but I just put it in the translator. So I've got God's rock here. This is coming out as rock in English. Just R-O-C. So I've got God's rock, and I'm like, just read it. Don't worry about the the grammar or anything. God's rock. And what we're talking about? Yes, we're talking about God's rock, moving that rock away from the tomb, yeah, becoming God's rock. Oh dear, you know, you just can't write this stuff. So I mean, that name, COVID, has just got so many little meanings, you know. Oh dear. Anyway, so let's go back to. I want to talk about that in a second. Hang on. So let's go back to this. So with that 61 days from those two things, we've got a 61 in here as well, which is nuts. So we've got that 10 in here and the 61, and I'm like, Well, the other thing that was bugging me is this blooming $1 bill, because I mentioned the $1 bill in the other video about the 8, the 1 being in between the 8. Yeah, the 1. If you fold that dollar bill, you have the 2 seals. Again, we've got the 2 seals here, the 2 round circles almost, which is the 2 seals of the $1 bill, and then we've got the 1 in the middle. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm reaching too much on this stuff or what, but anyway. But the other thing that was bothering me was the flip side of the $1 bill, the other side of the $1 bill. So that's on would be the green side, and then on the Washington side, the black side was this. I hope you can see this. I hope it's not too small. In fact, if I let's just make it big. I didn't really make it. Come on, there we go. So I make it a bit bigger, but this is on the other side. If you do that fold where it matches up, and this, if you flip it around, I've not got it at the flip stage. This is off my video actually. I wonder if I've got it flipped so we can see it a bit better. Here we are. So if we've got it flipped round, right, we've got a 10. So we've got this 8, right? We've got a 1, and we've got this 10 as well. So I'm like, boy, that's also, if we look at this now, this is now referencing the same number on the other side, just through, it's referencing the 818 that's on the other side. We've got those 2 numbers on each side now. What I'm trying to say, we've got 8 and 1 here, 18, and we've got the 10 right here. And so I'm like, oh, wow, this is kind of fitting in pretty good now, starting to make a bit more sense. And so I thought, well, I'll just look at a couple of dates. Let me escape this, hang on a minute. So I was like, I'll just look at a couple of dates on the counter, right? And I'll put in October now, okay, the 18th, and see where that takes me. And we'll just put in some numbers to do with 9/11 or 6/11, right? Some of these important numbers, or so the numbers off this chart here, like 37, the 111, which is in the middle right here. What else to say? What other numbers did I look at? I can't even remember. Oh, we'll put the 5. I'm going to do a couple of numbers, like and I'll actually look at 818 as well. And let's just do that. And then there's another number that I really want to look at, which will hang on a minute. Let's go back to this. So if you remember, let's just go through some of these numbers. So like I was saying, 37. Let's just do some of these numbers real quick. So we do 37. I don't want to go, that's not really much 24th. Let's go backwards 37. And that takes us to September the 11th, yeah? So that L number, EL, or 37, takes us back to September the 11th. Super interesting, right? That's one of the numbers in the chart. Let's do another number. Let's do 111, because that's always linked to September the 11th. And that takes us back to the 29th of June. That's that number right after the 1118. That would be 29th of June. That's how that works out. So that's super interesting. Let's do, what other numbers did I have here? Let's go back, and I only picked this number because of the L, and because 818 references back to the 8th of January, which is Bowie, Elvis's birthday, Kim Jong-un's birthday. So I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look at some Elvis numbers, because Elvis is super prominent in this. If you ever watch Jurassic Liars, he's got a ton of stuff on Elvis, and it's super prominent, especially with the pi reference, everything. So I thought, well, we'll do Elvis's death age, which was 42, and we'll go back 42, and it's not super interesting, but this year, the 6th of September is Labor Day. I just thought it was interesting. I mean, you know, you can start picking and choosing some of these dates a bit. But let's do a 9/11 the wrong way around. Let's plus that. Oh, I got it written down here. We got the 14th of Feb, back to that Valentine's Day. You know, falling in love, shooting the arrow again, the arrow through the eye of the needle, or through the heart, or you know, interesting again. Let's minus off 116 now. Yeah, 6/11. That 6/11 date, June the 11th, and we're back to the condo collapse on the 24th of June. You know, and I mean, we can go around in circles, but there was a date that I wanted to pick up on, and if you recall Back to the Future, and I've spoken about this in other videos again, is the start opening scene of Back to the Future when Marty blows that amp up. That amp, I believe, is a direct reference to the Arecibo Observatory, which coincidentally I read the other day that it was actually built as initially as a missile defense thing. With all the war game stuff that I was talking about, I thought that was interesting. But that collapse, I believe, is the start of Back to the Future. That whole thing, and of course, it's in GoldenEye as well. It's heavily referenced in those two things, I think. And the point of that reference is, that thing collapses in 3 stages, right? It collapses. The first stage is August the 10th, another super important date, which then moves on to 88 days later being November the 6th. So we got this 88 reference, which immediately becomes super interesting. But then from there, we go through another 25 days, and we get to the 1st of December. And so we got to 121. And so what was interesting about that scene is, at the end of the scene, Doc phones and Marty talks to him, and Doc mentions that his clocks are 25 minutes late. And so we have that reference of being 25 minutes late. And what I thought was interesting about that is, yeah, it's encoded into the Arecibo collapse. So we know that's the Arecibo collapse, but what's also being said there is it's 25 minutes late. Something's 25 minutes late. And that's been bugging me. Like, because I was looking at the 8/18 date, and I was putting in 52 and 25 to see, you know, what dates came up, and nothing really significant came up. And I'm like, it was kind of bugging me, because I just felt like there was more relevance to that whole, putting that whole thing in there, and then Marty being late for school. And so I'm like, well, you know what I'll do? I will put in, from this date, I'll put the 25 in. Okay. And so, anyway, I get to this date, the 23rd of September, right? And there's some, what I would say, personal significance to that date. So anyway, it really got me, you know, interested. And I don't know if you've ever seen people talking about alternate Christ birthdays, but around about the 21st, the 22nd, the 23rd, the 24th, people talk about that being Christ's true birthday, right? Well, okay. How do we get to this idea of that being Christ's true birthday? Well, these people, I don't know where they come up with that idea from. It's not from what I'm about to tell you, but this is where the idea, I think, comes from. If you go from, and this is the idea again with 9/11, if you go from, you know, the end of December, you know, the winter solstice, right, and you go 9 months, so the human gestation period, right, if you go 9 months, that's when, you know, this date appears, right? This as well is when we think about Christ, we think about him being the balanced man, yeah? The cross is balanced, yeah? That's how you balance, that's how everything's balanced with a cross, right? With a cycle or with a cross. That's how you balance two, what am I trying to say? Two lines, two sides of things. Like imagine a scale. You've got two things to balance, yeah? The arms are the scale arms holding the two different weights, and then the body becomes the balance point with the heart at the center of that balance point. This is why everybody says follow your heart. You know, this is why you put your heart in Jesus, or etc., etc., because the heart is the balance point of the body. Okay, the physical body, that is, and the arms are the two scales, and this is the cross. This is how you balance two, a line. You have to put a point in the middle of that line, okay, and that's your balance point in the center. Well, then you have to also put another line in there to balance that point in the opposite direction as well. I don't know. Anyway, that's how you balance two things, two lines. You put them over the top of one another, and there's a point in the middle, right? Bloody hell, I'm waffling, sorry. But what's interesting about this date is, actually this year though, this doesn't work out, small caveat, because it's the 22nd this year, but it's so darn close, and something else will become very clear in a minute, because we'll go back to the table with the 23, but the 22nd to the 23rd is usually the autumnal equinox. All right, so every once in a millennia, it's on the 21st or the 24th, but usually it's the 22nd or the 23rd. So this is the start of fall, yeah? Are you getting where I'm going with this? The fall of man, or the fall of the system, the fall of matrix, right? The fall of the dam. So this is the start of it, yeah? So this date would be a balanced date. This is when day equals night, this is the balanced time of the year. That's what the equinox is, right? It's when the daytime is the same length as the night time, right? So this is a super important balance point. And if you know your astrological, whatever you want to call that stuff, bloody star sign stuff, you've got Virgo changing over to Libra right then, yeah? It changes over right at that point. And there's a reason why it changes over at that point, because you're the Virgo, the Virgin, yeah, coming into balance, right? And the balance scale is the cross. It's Jesus, right? So you've got Libra, the righteous man, the man that does the right thing, the balance thing all the time, coming from the Virgin, right? And it's right at that time of year. So this is how you get that idea as well of Jesus. An alternate date for Jesus's birth is that time, because if you think about the idea of creation, at the very lowest point of the year, or the start of the year, what you would have there, that would be like the divine spark right there at Christmas time, and then that would then gestate 9 months later, give birth to the balanced man, which would be that Libra type idea, right at that point. And that's heavily referenced as well in that is actually referenced in iPet Goat as well. But anyway, and I've talked about that before. So this got really, really interesting to me, yeah. And I mean, if you do go from the 22nd, of course, the 22nd, if you were to put 26 days in here, which is the number of God, if you listen to Jurassic Liars, you've got the 22nd, which would be this year's equinox, which is super interesting. So I just thought that was really interesting. But the reason why we were looking at why have I put 23 in there? The reason why the 25 was also interesting is because the 25 is a silver anniversary, yeah, and did I do the 50 days back? If you go back from 8, so this would be 25 days, which would be a silver anniversary, like the moon, the silver. So we've got that anniversary sort of to the October the 18th date, right? And if we wanted to go back to the other, another one of these dates that's interesting, which is the 29th of, go back from August now, and we can minus 50 days off of here. So I'm going off on a tangent a little bit. But that 50, the 5.0 that was in Vanilla Ice, if we go back 50 days there, we are at June the 29th as well. Yeah. Another super interesting day. And if we go back 111 days, we get back to 1018. So you can start to see where these dates are all really interesting. By the way, 50 is the golden anniversary. I don't know what ones we go 50 days on from there. I don't think it goes any. Does that go to October the 7th? Nah, not that interesting. But so there are uninteresting dates that do come up as well. But if we go back to this thing here, and the 25, because I want to just talk about this 23 again. What have I done here? 20. What the hell, Dan? 20. No, it was 25 days. 25. Come on, write it in correctly and then put the minus. Bloomin' hell. Okay. So we get back. So this the 23 day, right? So let's just look. Hang on a minute. So everybody sees 33s everywhere, right? Well, I see a lot of 23s. And of course, there was that Jim Carrey movie. It was 23. I've not sat through it. I started to, but I was like, I'm not really digging this at all. But anyway, we've got this 20. So we reference him with the 23 here. This 18. We are referencing, more balance, if you like. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but it's just the fact that this 23 is in here, and this literally is arguably the equinox date. Okay, which I talked about that in older videos about that balance time and something happening around that time. What more do I want to say? I haven't gone back and explored the iPet calendar, Egyptian calendar, but that may be something I might do to see around October the 18th what kind of ritual type things happen around that date. But anyway, let's go back to this real quick. I think I've kind of explained that now, and I want to explain one more thing here with that day, one more interesting thing. So let's look at the day itself, October the 18th. This right here, which is the 74 days till the end of the year, which is interesting because 4/7 is Independence Day. I haven't really looked at 291, and I haven't really run those numbers, so I'm not even worried about that. But let's go to the counterpart day of the year, which would be the 74th day of the year, and this now becomes a little bit. This is interesting as well because we're a day off on this as well. So here's 74, and of course we've got 73 here, or 37, the day before, and that day is the day before 74, so we've got March the 15th, and this is Mother's Day in England here, or Pi Day, which happens to be 314, right the day before this counterpart. So this is it. Again, that's very, very interesting. I know it's not the exact day, but I mean, I don't know. It's super interesting. Let's put it that way. At least to me, it was. And of course, you're going to have one day, Mother's Day, and then Independence Day the following day, you know. So, and of course, independence must come with the destruction of the mother. I don't know. Anyway, anything else left to say on this? I don't know. I think I've covered everything. I've probably forgotten something. Vanilla Ice's real name, Robert Matthew Van Winkle. Yeah, the Van, the V for the place that we're trapped in. The van is the thing we're trapped in, the box van again. The thing that carries the good, the van, the goods is in the van. And the winkle. Is he winking an eye? Are we talking about the winkle, the wink of the eye, going through that eye of the needle, you know, walking the straight and narrow path, or are we talking about the arrow, the winkle, as people might call it, getting your winkle out, that arrow shooting through or out of the van? You know, I don't know. Look, is he born on October the 31st? It sounds made up to me, but anyway. What else do I want to say about it? I think I've covered everything. I don't really want to overcomplicate this. It's probably already half an hour long, so I'm just going to call it quits right there. But again, it's on the $1 bill. It's on the other side of the $1 bill. It seems like this 10, 18 day. Oh, there's also, I just actually, before I get off of here, let me just tell you the other couple of numbers that it references, which is interesting. Did I go through this? We went through the 61. We went through the flipping that around. We went through the flipping this around in the 61. Okay, so that's really interesting that it's kind of in the events going on right now. And also, if we take the 111, so if we take 101, right, it's right here in the center of this. You put a 0 in the front of this, in the middle of this, right here, and we're going to share one of these ones. We've got that 111, 118 right here, with that date, because you get rid of that 0 out the middle, yeah? Let me go to the paint. So we've got the 1, so it'd be 10, at least that's how I'd write the date, 10/18. I know it'd be, or it might be, you could write it the other way around as well. What would it look like around the other way? Let's see. 1. Geez, Dan, this is pretty bad. So we've got this around the other way, right? But if we put it around this way, we've got this 101 in here, and we can scrub that 0 out right here, and we got the 118, you know, so everything starts, you know, I mean, that date still looks pretty good. And the 101 event, the Harvest Festival, and in fact, I don't know what the Harvest Moon date is this year. That might be on the 23rd. I don't know. It falls around that time as well, I think. I think I've done this to death. You know, I mean, I don't think there's anything else I can put into this. Man, you know, it'll be interesting to see maybe the news tomorrow and see if anything interesting did happen to old Queenie or Madonna or somebody else that's got like Queen Latifah or somebody. It would be interesting to see if somebody that somehow references the feminine side of reality had some kind of little news story, but not, you know, it wouldn't be a totally major news story. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to call it quits there. I hope I've not forgotten anything. All right, well, anyway, I tell you one thing I did forget, actually, just briefly. The total length for the Arecibo thing was 113 days. That 88 plus 25 is 113 days. The 113 days is in Kobe Bryant's gematria. and it's also heavily in war games as well. So that 113 is referenced a lot in there. So anyway, I'm going to call it quits on that. I'm trying to think. I'm just looking at my paper to see if I've missed anything. No. Let's just call that good, you know. But that would fit in. That would fit in quite nicely with being 25 days late, fitting in with the fall, fitting in with the birth of Christ, or a potential another date for the birth of Christ, the rebirth of man, the returning of balance, moving from Virgo into Libra, and so it's a pretty nice, fits in with the $1 bill quite nicely. So the jigsaw pieces for this date seem to fit a little bit better. But then again, who the hell knows? Probably by the time we get to that date, I'll be looking at another day. So anyway, all right. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers. All right, bye.